The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council echoed with the voices of the most powerful alien civilizations in the known universe. Delegates from across the stars gathered to discuss matters of intergalactic importance, their faces set with stern determination. At the center of the room stood a young alien child, no more than 10 years old by human standards. Their delicate features and large, expressive eyes betrayed a deep confusion and fear as they were scrutinized by the imposing figures surrounding them. The child's parents, a couple from a distant planet, pleaded with the council members, their voices trembling. "Please, honorable members of the council, we beg you to reconsider. This child is our most precious treasure, the future of our people. They have done nothing to deserve such cruelty," the child's mother cried, her eyes glistening with tears. The council president, a towering alien with shimmering scales, raised a clawed hand, silencing the distraught parents. "The decision of this council is final," he proclaimed in a booming voice. "This child possesses unique genetic traits that may hold the key to advancing our scientific understanding. They will be taken into our custody for experimentation and study." A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates, their expressions hardening as they fixed their gaze upon the helpless child. The child's father, his face contorted with anguish, took a step forward. "But they are just a child. How can you condemn them to a life of torment and suffering?" he pleaded, his voice cracking with emotion. The council president regarded the father with a cold, calculating stare. "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few," he stated with an air of finality. "This child's sacrifice will contribute to the greater good of our civilizations." With a dismissive wave of his hand, the president signaled to the armed guards standing at the edges of the chamber. The guards swiftly surrounded the child, their weapons raised in a clear warning. The child's parents rushed forward, their arms outstretched, but they were quickly restrained by the guards, their cries of anguish echoing through the cavernous hall. "No, please, you can't do this," the mother wailed, her desperate pleas falling on deaf ears. The child, sensing the gravity of the situation, began to tremble, their wide eyes darting from one guard to the next. They reached out a trembling hand, silently begging their parents for comfort and protection. But the parents, held back by the unyielding grip of the guards, could only watch in horror as their child was torn from their embrace and led away, their tiny form disappearing through the towering doors of the council chamber. A somber silence settled over the hall as the delegates contemplated the council's decision. Some fidgeted uncomfortably, their expressions betraying a hint of unease, while others nodded in approval, satisfied with the pragmatic outcome. The council president surveyed the room, his gaze sweeping across the assembled aliens. "The child will be transported to our research facilities immediately," he announced, his voice echoing with a sense of finality. "This matter is closed." With a heavy heart, the delegates began to file out of the chamber, their footsteps echoing against the grand, imposing walls. The child's parents remained, their knees trembling as they sank to the floor, their anguished sobs filling the air. As the last of the delegates departed, the guards approached the grieving parents, their weapons still raised in a silent warning. The parents, realizing that their pleas had fallen on deaf ears, reluctantly allowed themselves to be escorted from the chamber, their tear-stained faces etched with a profound sense of despair. The grand doors of the council chamber closed with a resounding thud, sealing off the last glimpse of the child's terrified expression, forever separating them from the only love and comfort they had ever known. The news of the Galactic Council's cruel decision to seize the young alien child for experimentation spread quickly across the vast reaches of space, eventually reaching the distant planet known as Earth. In the bustling streets of the world's major cities, holographic screens displayed the harrowing images of the child being torn from their parents' arms, their cries of anguish echoing through the airwaves. Crowds gathered, their faces etched with shock and outrage, as they watched the heartbreaking scenes unfold. "How could they do this?" a young woman exclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. "That poor child, they're just a baby." Her companion, a grizzled older man, shook his head in disgust. The Galactic Council has always been a bunch of heartless bastards, but this is a new low, even for them, he growled, his fists clenched tightly at his sides. The outrage quickly spread, igniting a fire of righteous indignation within the hearts of the human population. Protests erupted across the globe, with millions taking to the streets to denounce the Galactic Council's actions and demand the child's immediate release. In the corridors of power, the United Nations convened an emergency session, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on the faces of the world leaders. This is an unacceptable act of cruelty and a violation of the most fundamental human rights, the UN Secretary-General declared, her voice laced with a rare display of emotion. We must take immediate action to rescue that child and hold the Galactic Council accountable for their actions. Delegates from nations around the world voiced their unwavering support, their calls for justice growing louder with each passing minute. The Galactic Council has gone too far this time. We cannot allow them to continue their reign of terror over the innocent, the representative from a small island nation proclaimed, her fist pounding the table for emphasis. Amid the cacophony of demands and proposals, the UN's diplomatic corps sprang into action, drafting a strongly worded letter to the Galactic Council, condemning their actions and demanding the immediate release of the child. The letter was dispatched with a sense of urgency, but as the days passed, the human representatives grew increasingly anxious, their hopes of a swift resolution fading with each unanswered transmission. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a response from the Galactic Council arrived, its tone cold and unyielding. The decision of this council is final, the letter stated, the words etched in a language that was both familiar and utterly foreign to the human delegates. The child is our property, and we will do with them as we see fit. Any further interference will be met with severe consequences. The UN representatives, their faces darkening with a mix of frustration and despair, convened once more, their voices raised in a heated debate. We cannot simply accept this. That child's life is at stake, and we have a moral obligation to intervene, the representative from a large industrialized nation argued, his fist pounding the table for emphasis. But to do so would be to defy the Galactic Council, the most powerful governing body in the known universe. A cautious delegate countered, her eyes darting nervously around the room. The repercussions could be catastrophic for our planet. The debate raged on, with some advocating for a diplomatic solution, while others called for a more aggressive approach. Tempers flared, and the air in the chamber crackled with tension as the fate of the young alien child hung in the balance. Finally, after hours of heated discussion, the UN Secretary-General raised a hand, silencing the room. "We have no choice," she said, her voice grave. "We must take action to rescue that child, regardless of the consequences." The delegates, sensing the unwavering determination in her words, nodded in solemn agreement, their faces set with a newfound resolve. As the meeting adjourned, the UN representatives wasted no time in mobilizing their resources, assembling a specialized task force to infiltrate the Galactic Council's headquarters and extract the child by any means necessary. The fate of the young alien child now rested in the hands of these brave human warriors, their mission fueled by a burning desire to right the wrongs of the Galactic Council and restore the child to the loving embrace of their family. As the UN's diplomatic efforts to secure the release of the young alien child faltered in the face of the Galactic Council's unyielding stance, a growing sense of frustration and determination began to take hold within the ranks of the world's leaders. In the private chambers of the UN Security Council, the representatives from the most powerful nations on Earth huddled together, their brows furrowed in deep contemplation. "We've exhausted every diplomatic avenue," the U.S. representative said, his voice laced with a hint of exasperation. "The Galactic Council is simply refusing to budge on this issue. We have to consider more drastic measures." The other delegates exchanged wary glances, their expressions reflecting the gravity of the situation. "You can't be suggesting what I think you're suggesting," the Russian representative interjected, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. Defying the Galactic Council directly would be an act of war, one that we may not be able to win. The U.S. representative held up a hand, silencing the room. I understand the risks, but we have a moral obligation to rescue that child, he said, his voice firm and unwavering. We cannot sit idly by while the Galactic Council condemns an innocent being to a life of torment and suffering. The other representatives fell silent, the weight of the decision bearing down on them. After a tense moment, the UN Secretary-General stepped forward, her gaze sweeping across the assembled leaders. The time for diplomacy has passed, she declared, her voice resolute. We must take action to save that child, regardless of the consequences. With a unanimous vote, the UN Security Council authorized the creation of a specialized military task force, granting them the authority to infiltrate the Galactic Council's heavily fortified headquarters and extract the child by any means necessary. The news of the UN's bold decision quickly spread throughout the human populace, igniting a renewed sense of hope and determination. In the streets of the world's major cities, crowds gathered, their cheers and chants echoing like a primal war cry. Bring our child home, they shouted, their fists raised in a defiant gesture. The task force, a meticulously selected team of the most skilled and experienced military personnel from across the globe, began their intensive preparations, honing their skills and fine-tuning their plans. Their leader, a seasoned commander with a reputation for daring exploits, stood before his team, his gaze unwavering. We're about to take on the most powerful governing body in the known universe, he said, his voice steady and assured. But we have something they don't, the unwavering support of an entire planet. And that, my friends, is worth more than all the ships and weapons in their arsenal. The task force members nodded in agreement, their eyes gleaming with a fierce determination. As the final preparations were made, the world held its breath, watching with bated anticipation as the small, elite group of human warriors set out on their perilous mission. The journey to the Galactic Council's headquarters was fraught with danger as the task force navigated treacherous hyperspace routes and evaded the watchful eyes of the Council's automated defense systems. But their resolve never wavered, fueled by the knowledge that the life of a child hung in the balance. Finally, after days of arduous travel, the task force arrived at the towering, impregnable fortress that served as the Galactic Council's seat of power. Gazing upon the daunting structure, the commander steeled his nerves, knowing that the success of their mission was far from guaranteed. "This is it, team," he said, his voice laced with a mix of trepidation and resolve. "Let's bring that child home." With a nod, the task force members prepared their weapons, their faces set with grim determination as they prepared to infiltrate the heart of the Galactic Council's domain, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fate of the young alien child now rested squarely on their shoulders, and they were determined to succeed, no matter the cost. The human task force, led by the seasoned commander, approached the towering fortress of the Galactic Council with a mix of trepidation and determination. They knew that the mission ahead would be fraught with danger, but the thought of the terrified alien child spurred them on, fueling their resolve. As they neared the heavily fortified compound, the team's intel specialists began to scan for any weaknesses in the Council's defenses. Meticulously gathered data from various sources had revealed a few potential entry points, but the task force knew that the real challenge would lie in navigating the maze of security measures and elite alien guards once they were inside. The commander turned to his team, his gaze sweeping across their faces. "Remember, our primary objective is to locate and extract the child," he said, his voice low and serious. "Avoid unnecessary confrontation if possible, but be prepared to use force if needed." The team members nodded, their expressions grim but determined. They knew the risks they were taking, but the thought of abandoning the child was unthinkable. With a signal from the commander, the task force sprang into action, swiftly and silently making their way towards the compound's perimeter. Using their highly advanced stealth technology, They managed to evade the watchful eyes of the Council's automated defense systems, slipping past the first line of security with relative ease. However, their luck was short-lived. As they approached the main entrance, a squad of heavily armed alien guards emerged, their weapons trained on the intruders. "Halt!" One of the guards bellowed, its voice a guttural rumble. "You are trespassing on the sacred grounds of the Galactic Council. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed." The commander quickly assessed the situation, his mind racing. He knew that they couldn't afford to be caught or trapped, not with the child's life at stake. With a swift nod, he signaled to his team, and in a blur of motion, they sprang into action. The task force members unleashed a barrage of advanced weaponry, their plasma rifles and energy blasters cutting through the air with blinding speed. The alien guards, caught off guard by the humans' unexpected ferocity, faltered, their return fire lacking the precision and coordination to match the task force's onslaught. In the chaos of the firefight, the commander and a small team of his most trusted operatives broke away, sprinting towards the central tower where the child was being held. They encountered resistance at every turn, facing waves of elite alien guards who fought with a desperate ferocity, knowing that the failure to stop the intruders would mean dire consequences for them and their civilization. But the human task force, driven by their unwavering determination to save the child, refused to be deterred. They fought with a fierce tenacity, their advanced tactics and superior firepower slowly chipping away at the alien defenses. Finally, after a grueling battle that left both sides battered and bruised, the commander and his team reached the entrance to the central tower, their hearts pounding with a mixture of triumph and trepidation. "We're almost there," the commander said, his gaze hardening with resolve. "Let's end this and bring that child home." With a nod, the team surged forward, their weapons at the ready as they prepared to confront the final obstacle standing between them and their objective. The fate of the young alien child hung in the balance, and the human task force was more determined than ever to succeed, no matter the cost. The Galactic Council's elite guards were no match for the ferocity and determination of the human task force. One by one, the alien warriors fell, their advanced weapons and superior numbers proving to be no match for the humans' tactical brilliance and unrelenting resolve. As the dust settled, the commander and his team reached the inner sanctum of the central tower, their eyes searching frantically for any sign of the young alien child. "There," one of the operatives shouted, pointing towards a small cell at the far end of the chamber. The child, their tiny frame trembling with fear, huddled in the corner, their wide eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The commander wasted no time, rushing towards the cell and quickly disabling the electronic lock. With a gentle touch, he reached out to the child, his voice soft and reassuring. "It's all right. We're here to take you home," he said, his words laced with a rare display of compassion. "Your family is waiting for you." The child, sensing the human sincerity, slowly emerged from their hiding place, their features softening with a glimmer of trust. Carefully, the commander scooped the child into his arms, cradling them protectively as he turned to make his way back to the task force. But their escape was not to be so easily accomplished. As the commander and his team began to retrace their steps, the towering doors of the chamber burst open, and a horde of furious alien guards flooded the room, their weapons blazing. The task force members quickly took up defensive positions, their plasma rifles unleashing a barrage of searing energy bolts that cut through the air with deadly precision. But the sheer numbers of the alien forces proved to be a formidable challenge, and the humans were soon locked in a desperate struggle for survival. Amidst the chaos, the commander, still clutching the child tightly, fought his way through the throng of alien warriors, his steely determination fueling his every move. He knew that their only chance of escape lay in reaching the extraction point where their transport awaited. As the team fought their way towards the exit, the child's trembling voice suddenly pierced through the din of battle. "Please, you must hurry," the child cried, their eyes filled with a newfound urgency. "The Galactic Council will stop at nothing to reclaim me. You are in grave danger." The commander's heart sank, realizing the gravity of the situation. He knew that the Galactic Council would not take kindly to the human intervention, and that their retribution would be swift and unforgiving. With a renewed sense of purpose, the task force redoubled their efforts, their weapons cutting a path through the alien hordes as they raced towards the extraction point. Miraculously, they reached the landing pad, where their transport hovered, its engines primed for a rapid departure. The commander ushered the child aboard, his team providing cover fire as they made their final push to the safety of the craft. Just as the last of the task force members were boarding, the towering doors of the central tower burst open once more, and the enraged Galactic Council delegates spilled out, their faces contorted with fury. "Stop them," the council president roared, his booming voice echoing across the compound. "That child is our property, and we will not tolerate this trespass upon our sovereign domain." The alien guards unleashed a relentless barrage of energy blasts, their weapons pounding the human transport as it lifted off, its engines straining to overcome the onslaught. The commander, his heart racing, watched as the Galactic Council's compound grew smaller in the distance, the child clutched tightly to his chest. He knew that their troubles were far from over, for the Galactic Council would undoubtedly seek swift and devastating retribution against the human race. As the transport soared through the vast expanse of space, the commander steeled his resolve, knowing that the fate of an entire civilization now rested on his shoulders. He would not rest until the child was safely reunited with their family, and he was prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, no matter the cost. The Galactic Council's fury had been unleashed, and humanity now stood poised to defend its own, ready to face the consequences of its defiant actions. As the human transport carrying the rescued alien child sped away from the Galactic Council's compound, the commander's mind raced with the implications of their daring raid. He knew that the Galactic Council would not take this act of defiance lightly, and that they would undoubtedly seek swift and devastating retribution against the human race. Upon their return to Earth, the commander immediately convened an emergency meeting with the leaders of the world's nations, his face etched with a grave seriousness. "The Galactic Council is furious," he began, his voice carrying a weight that silenced the room. "They have made it clear that they will not tolerate our interference, and that they will stop at nothing to reclaim the child we have rescued." The assembled world leaders exchanged uneasy glances, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily upon them. "Then we must prepare for war," the U.S. President declared, his fist slamming against the table. "We will not surrender the child to those heartless monsters, no matter the cost." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room as the other leaders voiced their unwavering support for the president's statement. The commander nodded, his expression grim. "That is precisely what I feared," he said. "The Galactic Council's military might is formidable, and they have the backing of countless alien civilizations. If we are to have any hope of defending our planet, we must act swiftly and strategically." With a renewed sense of purpose, the world's governments sprang into action, mobilizing their military forces and preparing for the impending conflict. Seasoned war veterans and tactical experts were brought in to devise a comprehensive defense strategy, their minds alight with the challenge at hand. Meanwhile, the brightest scientific minds from across the globe were tasked with developing new technologies and weapons that could give humanity an edge against the superior alien technology. In laboratories and research facilities, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, their fingers flying across keyboards as they pushed the boundaries of what was thought possible. "We need to find a way to counter the Galactic Council's energy weapons," one scientist, her brow furrowed with concentration, declared. "Their plasma blasters are far more powerful than anything we've encountered before." Her colleague, a grizzled physicist, nodded in agreement. "And their ships, they're faster, more maneuverable, and have shielding technology that our current weaponry can't penetrate," he said, his voice laced with frustration. The two scientists exchanged determined glances, their minds already buzzing with potential solutions. "Then we'll just have to create something better," the woman said, her eyes gleaming with a fierce resolve. Across the globe, similar scenes played out, as the brightest minds of humanity pushed the limits of their knowledge and capabilities, driven by the urgency of the looming conflict. In the corridors of power, the world's leaders coordinated their strategies, forging alliances and alliances that would strengthen their defenses against the Galactic Council's wrath. "We must present a united front," the UN Secretary-General proclaimed, her gaze sweeping across the assembled leaders. "Only by working together can we hope to withstand the Galactic Council's onslaught." The leaders nodded in agreement, their expressions hardening with determination. They knew that the stakes had never been higher, and that the fate of their entire civilization hung in the balance. As the preparations continued, a palpable sense of tension and unease settled over the planet, the knowledge that a confrontation with the Galactic Council was inevitable weighing heavily on the minds of all who called Earth home. But in the face of this imminent threat, the human spirit remained undaunted, fueled by a burning desire to protect their own and to stand up against the cruelty and injustice that had been inflicted upon the young alien child. The stage was set for a clash of civilizations, one that would test the limits of humanity's resolve and ingenuity, and the outcome would determine the future of both Earth and the Galactic Council's domain. The Galactic Council's fury knew no bounds. Having been defied by the upstart human race, they mobilized their vast armada, preparing to unleash the full might of their technological superiority upon the unsuspecting planet of Earth. From the command centers of the Council's vast interstellar fleet, the alien leaders barked orders, their faces contorted with a mix of rage and determination. "We will show these primitive humans the true power of the Galactic Council," the Council President bellowed, his voice echoing through the communications channels. "They will learn the price of their insolence, and they will beg for mercy before we are through with them." As the alien ships, their sleek hulls gleaming with advanced weaponry, surged through the void of space, the human governments on Earth scrambled to ready their defenses. The seasoned commander who had led the daring raid to rescue the alien child now found himself at the forefront of the impending battle, his tactical expertise and unwavering courage critical to the planet's survival. "We've poured everything we have into these new weapons and defense systems," the commander reported to the world's leaders, his gaze resolute. "But the Galactic Council's technology is still more advanced than anything we've ever faced. It's going to be a hell of a fight." The leaders exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the responsibility resting heavily upon their shoulders. "Then we must fight with everything we have," the U.S. President declared, his fist slamming against the table. "We will not go down without a battle, and we will not surrender the child or our planet to those heartless aliens." As the Galactic Council's armada approached Earth's orbit, the human forces braced themselves for the inevitable onslaught. Across the globe, military installations and orbital defense platforms readied their weapons, their crews filled with a mixture of fear and determination. The first volley of alien energy weapons rained down from the skies, their devastating blasts slamming into the human defenses with earth-shattering force. Cities trembled, buildings crumbled, and the air was filled with the cries of the wounded and the dying. But the human forces refused to be cowed, their own advanced weapons and tactics meeting the alien assault with a fury of their own. Swarms of nimble fighter craft darted through the chaos, unleashing a barrage of missiles and laser-guided ordnance that pounded the Galactic Council's ships. The commander, his face set with grim determination, led his task force into the heart of the battle, their skills honed to a razor's edge. They struck with precision and ferocity, targeting the alien vessel's weak points and exploiting every vulnerability they could find. As the battle raged on, the skies above Earth became a dizzying maelstrom of light and sound, the very fabric of the planet trembling under the weight of the conflict. The Galactic Council's forces, while technologically superior, found themselves increasingly hard-pressed to maintain their advantage. The humans' resourcefulness and sheer determination proved to be a formidable adversary, and slowly but surely the alien ships began to falter. In the command centers, the alien leaders watched in dismay as their carefully laid plans unraveled before their eyes. The council president, his face twisted with a mix of disbelief and fury, struggled to maintain his composure. "Impossible," he roared, his clawed fist slamming against the display. "These primitives cannot be defeating us." But the truth was undeniable. The human forces, led by the seasoned commander and his elite task force, had managed to turn the tide of the battle. Their innovative tactics and unwavering resolve chipping away at the Galactic Council's seemingly impregnable defenses. As the final alien ships retreated, their engines smoking and their hulls scared by the relentless human assault, a deafening cheer rose up from the streets of Earth's cities. The people, their faces alight with a newfound hope, celebrated the triumph of their homeworld over the might of the Galactic Council. The commander, his uniform tattered, and his face etched with the strain of the battle, stood tall, his gaze sweeping across the jubilant crowd. He knew that this was only the beginning, that the Galactic Council would not easily accept their defeat. But for now, the human race had proven its mettle, and the young alien child, their symbol of hope and resilience, was safely back in the arms of their family, their future no longer bound to the cruel whims of the Galactic Council. As the dust settled and the world began to rebuild, the commander knew that the true test still lay ahead, for the Galactic Council would undoubtedly return, seeking to reclaim what they had lost. But the human race, united and resolute, was ready to face whatever challenges lay in store, determined to protect their own and to forge a new path in the vast expanse of the cosmos. The human forces, battle-weary but triumphant, had emerged victorious from their confrontation with the Galactic Council's mighty armada. The skies above Earth still bore the scars of the fierce conflict, but the people of the planet could not help but feel a sense of renewed hope and pride. In the aftermath of the battle, the rescued alien child was finally reunited with their family, their joyous reunion a testament to the determination and compassion of the human race. As the child's parents embraced their long-lost loved one, tears of relief streamed down their faces. Thank you all," the mother whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "You have saved our child, and in doing so, you have given us a future." The commander, standing nearby, offered the family a solemn nod, his expression softening with a rare display of empathy. "It was the right thing to do," he said, his voice low and sincere. "No one should suffer the cruelty that your child endured." The child, now safe and secure, looked up at the commander with a newfound sense of wonder and trust. They reached out a small hand, grasping the human's calloused fingers, a silent gesture of gratitude that spoke volumes. The commander, taken aback by the child's simple act of kindness, felt a stirring within his heart, a spark of hope that perhaps, through this shared experience, a new understanding could be forged between the human race and the Galactic Council. As the world's leaders gathered to assess the aftermath of the battle, the mood was one of cautious optimism. They knew that the Galactic Council would not take their defeat lightly, and that the conflict was far from over. "They will return, of that there is no doubt," the UN Secretary-General announced, her gaze sweeping across the assembled leaders. "But this time, we will be ready." The leaders nodded in agreement, their expressions hardening with determination. They had witnessed the power of humanity's unity and ingenuity, and they were more resolute than ever to defend their planet and its inhabitants from the Galactic Council's wrath. In the days and weeks that followed, the human governments poured their resources into strengthening their defenses, utilizing the technological breakthroughs achieved during the battle to create even more formidable weapons and defense systems. The commander, his role now elevated to that of a strategic advisor, worked tirelessly alongside the world's top scientists and engineers, his wealth of experience and tactical expertise proving invaluable in the race to prepare for the Galactic Council's inevitable return. "We can't simply react to their attacks," the commander said, his brow furrowed with concentration. "We need to anticipate their moves, to stay one step ahead of them at all times." The other leaders listened intently, their eyes gleaming with a newfound respect for the humans' military prowess. As the preparations continued, the rescued alien child became a symbol of hope and unity for the entire human race. Their story, of a helpless child saved from the clutches of the cruel Galactic Council, resonated with people across the globe, inspiring them to stand together in defiance of the alien civilization's tyranny. The child's parents, their hearts filled with a profound sense of gratitude, became vocal advocates for strengthening the bonds between Earth and the broader galactic community. They spoke passionately about the need for mutual understanding and respect, their words cutting through the lingering tension and fear. "We are not so different, you and us," the child's father said, his gaze unwavering. "We all share the same desire to protect our loved ones, to build a better future for our children. If we can find a way to work together, to set aside our differences, there is no limit to what we can achieve." The Galactic Council, meanwhile, remained silent, their wounded pride and seething anger simmering beneath the surface. But the human race, emboldened by their recent victory and the newfound sense of unity, refused to be cowed. As the young alien child was reunited with their family, the world watched with bated breath, knowing that this was just the beginning of a new era, one where humanity had proven its mettle and would not back down in the face of adversity. The Galactic Council's cruelty had ignited a fire within the human race, a fire that would burn brighter with each passing day, fueled by a determination to protect their own and to forge a path towards a future where all civilizations could coexist in peace and harmony.